The third segment of the ones that we're using here is, once again, we have past, present, and we have future. These are called continuous, or sometimes it's referred to as progressive. So these are the continuous tenses or the progressive tenses. And usually, once again, we have two actions or an action and a specific time involved. If we take a look at the one in the past, so if we look at the one from the past, here is the first action, and this action then continues, which is why we call it continuous, until the second action or second time. So when we talked about the perfect tenses, here's the first action, it ends, and then the second action or second time here occurs. But in this case, the action begins before the second action, but it isn't finished yet when the second action or time occurs. So for example, we could say, he was watching television when I arrived yesterday. So what's the first action? The first action is was watching, because he started watching television before I arrived. When I arrived, this is the second action. This was still happening. So he wasn't finished watching when I arrived. Over here, when I arrived, he was already done, finished watching television. So the difference between the perfect tense and the continuous or the progressive tense is the first action is not finished when the second action or second time occurs. He was eating dinner at 6 o'clock. So this means he started eating dinner before 6 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, which is our second point, whether it's an action or a time, and this is the first action, but it was not completed yet when we got to the second one. Likewise, for the present continuous, it looks like this, where here's now. This is the action that began in the past, but when we reach to now, it's still happening. Over here, there was the first action that occurred sometime before now. It's completed action, all right? So here we can say, he is watching TV. So it's happening now. So here we have present, because it's happening now. Here we have past, because that was the past action. So this is why we this is why we call this the present continuous, because it's happening now. Now, he may still be watching TV, but at 6 o'clock, he was still doing it, or he was still doing it when I arrived. And as usual, and like in all the other ones, the future is just this on the other side of the line. So here is the first expected or scheduled action, and then before it finishes, we see that the second will occur. In this case, we would say, he will be watching, and again, it's future continuous, so I use the future with the ing form. He will be watching TV when I arrive tomorrow. Just use the simple form of the verb when it's in the time clause like that, because this already tells us that this is the future. Since that's going to happen later in the future, we don't have to write will or going to, because it's obvious that these are both in the future. We know that this is the first action, we know that when the second one occurs, this first one will not yet be finished. And just like in this one, we have the first action, it's finished, and then the second action occurs. So if there's a gap in between, we'll use the future perfect. If there's no gap, then we're going to use the future continuous, or the future progressive, as it's also called. Piece of cake, right? Thank you.